Lots for us to discuss then with the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. Good to see you this morning, Mr Streeting.
Good morning.
Can we start with that police report out this morning? Hundreds, perhaps thousands of, and I'm using very temperate language here, bad apples. If I were not doing a breakfast programme, I might be rather stronger. It is a disgrace, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks less like apples and more like an orchard. This concerns me for two reasons. One is the public need to have confidence in our police, and I think over a whole series of misconduct scandals, I think public confidence and trust in the police has been severely undermined. And then I mentioned the orchard. I do actually feel really sorry for the majority of police officers who go into the force for the right reasons and are no doubt sick of turning on the TV in the morning on programmes like this and seeing their reputation, the reputation of their profession dragged through the mud. So our plan to deal with this is both to ensure that there are consistent national standards across the country in terms of conduct, but also an overhaul of the standards regime, because Yvette Cooper, as Shadow Home Secretary, has been working on this for many years, not least as chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, where she's raised concerns previously.
Still, we should not forget that the reason for this report, the reason Priti Patel commissioned it, was the murder of Sarah Everard, which took place here in London on Sadiq Khan's watch.
Well, and to be fair to Sadiq, he was very robust in challenging the Metropolitan Police and its previous leader. And I remember Sadiq taking criticism at the time for calling for the resignation of the Met Police Commissioner. And when you see what's emerged
earlier, though, the criticism was that he held on to Cressida Dick for far too long.
And look, I think Sadiq also got criticism for acting when he did. The mayor's between a rock and a hard place as the Police and Crime Commissioner. I think we are as politicians in a way, because you don't want to be seen to be interfering politically in the running of police force. That operational independence is important. But we do have a responsibility as politicians, whether as a Police and Crime Commissioner, in Sadiq's case, or indeed, the Home Secretary has a responsibility to make sure that the person at the top and the culture of the force over which they are responsible, that they're held to high standards. And I think Sadiq acted robustly. He took criticism at the time for doing that, but I think he has been vindicated in his judgment, even though there were people saying that he went too far, too fast and was unfair to the previous commissioner.
Let's talk about the Manston Processing Migrant Centre. Lucy Powell, sitting where you were yesterday, suggested that there needs to be a better deal done with the French. Mark Harper, sitting where you are this morning, said something similar. Is this perhaps a point at which Labour and Conservative can put political enmity aside and work together on this? Because there can't be many people in this country who do not feel that lives being risked crossing the Channel in this manner is a good thing.
You'd hope we'd be able to work together, and we've actually got a plan. The Conservatives are welcome to help themselves too. It is about working with international allies, of course. It's also about resources. We think that the £120 million the government's spending on the Botched Rwanda scheme, which is unworkable and very expensive, could be better used in the National Crime Agency, tackling the criminal gangs which exploit these people whilst making vast sums of money. That's the heart of the issue. And then on a practical level, there's much more to be done on speeding up asylum claims. The people who came on the boats last year, some of them have been waiting a year, still don't have a decision. They're left in limbo, which means they can't contribute to our society. But no doubt there are people in there who shouldn't be here, who should be returned home. So I think it's both the policy and the practice that needs to change. We've got a plan. The Conservatives are welcome to use it.
In a previous existence, you, of course, were involved with the National Union of Students. You will, in fact, actually, I'm thinking about it, I think I may well have interviewed you when you were...
Yeah, you are that old. You've been
I know. Yeah, thanks very much. I think we're going to find the question and getting even more robust.
Yeah, I've really done myself in here, can't I?
What on earth is going on with the NUS? This is not the first time that we have seen a president caught out making some pretty horrific statements. Not the first time that racism has been found within the union. Isn't it possibly time for the government to step in and actually order the NUS to put its house in order?
Well, I think, and to be fair to the government, it's not often I say that, but to be fair to the government, I think they actually withdrew from engagement with NUS, which I think was a right thing to do. It's pretty depressing for me as a former president to see an organisation which I think has an important role to play in representing students, making sure their voices are heard by university leaders, by political parties, by government. It's a shame it's got to this point. I do want to commend the NUS leadership, however, for gripping the situation and acting in both a fair way but also a robust way, because students need to have confidence that they're being well represented.
Well, the ex-sitting president, however, has claimed that she is the victim of sexism and racism. She's not, is she?
I think it's important to acknowledge that this was a case, an independent KC-led inquiry, is my understanding. Obviously, I've not followed the ins and outs and all of this, but it's an independent KC-led inquiry. And I think some of her publicly known comments were already pretty reprehensible, and I don't think she showed adequate remorse or contrition.
How do we sort out a problem like the National Union of Students?
Well, I think there'll be lots of viewers who frankly don't care much about student politics and say, look, this is all trivial, why are we even talking about it? I think that student politics at its best can play a really good constructive role, and actually
you don't have a solution.
Well, I think it's for them to deal with. I would say to student union leaders, look, this is your union. You've got a responsibility to step up and take control, because if I'd gone rogue when I was president of NUS, I would have been held to account by student unions. So I think there's a collective responsibility on their part to step up and get a grip of their union, because ultimately, I mean, I can tell you that in terms of Westminster and Parliament, NUS has become an irrelevance, and yet students are having a really hard time, whether it's financial hardship, the impact of the cost of living crisis on students, and the student experience that's been severely disrupted during and since the pandemic. I think students deserve a strong national voice, and I think NUS can be that national voice, and it's a responsibility of student unions to step up and support the new NUS leadership to do that.
On your brief, as indeed we spent some time with Mr Harper speaking about his, tell us about the cancer patients on the NHS waiting list that you've identified as going beneath the radar. The figures are concerning.
They are. Independent experts estimate there are around 25,000 people on NHS waiting lists who have cancer but haven't found it yet, hasn't been diagnosed yet. And I know this from personal experience. When I was diagnosed with my kidney cancer last year, it was actually for a scan for kidney stones. And so I know that within those big backlogs, more than 7 million people now waiting, there will be cases of undiagnosed cancer. And that's why Labour's plan for the NHS, yes, is about gripping some of the short-term issues, and there are things the government could do right now, but actually it's also a medium to long-term plan. The biggest expansion of NHS staff in history, funded by abolishing the non-dom tax status, which would deliver more doctors, more nurses, faster, better diagnostics and treatment.
Just a final word from you on Matt Hancock and his appearance on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I've quoted it already this morning, but I'm going to go do it again. His deputy constituency chairman says he's looking forward to seeing Mr Hancock eat a kangaroo's penis. I mean, what is your view on all of this? We can laugh and we can joke, but the man has left the country at the time that the COVID inquiry is just about to start.
Yeah, I have to say, of all of the criticism that Matt Hancock has received, I thought the most damning was from COVID-bereaved families, who I think expect politicians to take that inquiry seriously. And clearly Matt Hancock has a lot to say and contribute as Health Secretary throughout much of the pandemic. So I think he's letting them down. I think he's letting politicians and our politics down more generally, because my concern is that, you know, he says he wants to go on there so people have better access to politicians. I don't want people across the country thinking that Matt Hancock is in any way representative of politicians.
Couldn't we just get the chief whips of both, Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems, all of you, just to say, right, do you know one thing that you can't do whilst you're an MP is go and appear on, reality television? I mean, surely that's a bare minimum that people can expect of their elected representatives.
A statement of the bleeding obvious as well. I mean, I don't have a problem with politicians going on to programmes which are not traditional political programmes in order to get a message across, to reach audiences we might otherwise not reach, because loads of people are just turning off now whenever they see politics. I think this is extraordinary and unacceptable in terms of the time commitment that's involved, and the fact that being a member of Parliament is a privilege. It's also a responsibility. If he wants to be a celebrity, go and be a celebrity. We're not celebrities, we are politicians. We have a responsibility and a serious job to do, and no one is convincing me that he's doing it. I can also say that the I'm a Celebrity producers would be delighted at the number of telephone calls going in during every Bush-Tucker trial, because we are going to make sure, and I can say this on a cross-party basis, that Matt Hancock gets his fill of every creepy crawly available to him in that jungle.
Wes Streeting, good to have you on the programme. Thanks for being with us.